What is it like being part of what I feel, and I think a lot of people feel, is the Star Wars since 1980?
It's rather great, really, when I hear you say that.
I mean, the show is incredible.
Listen, I think Tony's vision and the team we collated and the story he is telling are just a huge passion for everybody involved and a real inspiration, and it is a real pleasure and joy to be part of this journey, and a gift to have found such an extraordinary response and loving your costumes. It's just a great journey.
And Sanne has dedicated 5 years of her life to this project and done the most incredible job.
Andy, when did you realize? I mean, people love your character on this series. When did you realize that this was going to be something special?
Oh, look, I mean, pretty much when I first talked to Tony about getting involved in it, I mean, he was so passionate about it. I mean, I was such a massive fan of Rogue One. It was such a great film, and having had the opportunity to have seen Star Wars from a particular perspective on the dark side, and then actually when I was approached, I was quite trepidatious, because I was thinking, there were so many Snoke theories over the years that I'd had to duck and dive and avoid, and then I just thought, oh no, this is going to be a nightmare, because people are going to think Kino Loy is somehow associated with Snoke, and I'm going to have to talk around the houses and but then when he explained to me what he was doing, and when and the character and what, of course, with every single character in Andor, there is such depth and humanity, and they're flawed, or they're, and the way that Cassian weaves his way through this incredible heroic journey through, experiencing all of these extraordinary characters. But the way Tony explained the arc that I was going to be involved in, I just instantly had an enormous respect for. I mean, I've always respected him as a writer, director, but just his integrity in terms of being authentic and knowing what he wants to say, and to use this platform and to use this world and universe to say such important things about the human condition. It really just took me in, and it's exactly the sort of filmmaking or storytelling that I like to be involved in.
Well, the thing that, I was rewatching episode 8 through 10 with everyone in the audience, and you forget that this is a TV show, because the production design, the writing, every aspect of this series is just on another level. So can you both talk a little bit about that? What's it like on set, seeing what these brilliant crew people are bringing to life, and obviously the incredible writing?
I think the whole process of how we can realize it and bring Tony's vision to the screen really started in the writer's room, where our production designer is already part of it, and even in the early stages. And for the many challenges to also kind of feed through right from the start what may be possible, what isn't, what solutions we could find in order to bring that vision to the screen. And it's a whole lot of conversations and many kind of meetings and details to be discussed about the truthfulness. And if you're creating a Star Wars prison, what does it look like? How can you be fresh? It's kind of a real challenge to embark on anything. It was prison. There have been so many iterations and amazing stories be told. And yet when Tony realized that he needed Cassian to be locked up, it was a real challenge right from the start to think, how do we go about it? How can we be fresh? And it was little things that started off. We didn't want it to be dark and dingy. And we thought, well, if it's a Star Wars facility, it should be shiny and clean, and the very opposite. And then we came to, maybe there is no bars anywhere. Maybe you don't need staff. And it was just an extraordinary whirlwind with Tony and Dan and Bo in a room, and to really kind of riff what is the basis. And we came to an electric floor, and the whole story and reality of how it works and what it does, that then also enables Tony to write how you could stage a rebellion within, and how, Cassian finding himself locked up there could have seen enough to begin to get the kernels of getting out of there. And how do you, facilitate communication? Prisons always have communications. And yet, how difficult is it when you find yourself in a world where you have super regimented and can't mingle, and all these many, many discussions and thoughts kind of led us to what it came to. And then you also know what you have to build. And look, you never have enough money to do anything you want to do, and yet you have to find a way. And so you would be probably surprised how little we built in the end, and how we cleverly used and reused, and what we had in order to create a world that is ultimately huge. And of course, CG extensions, help us a lot, but also have to be at a minimum. So yeah, it was quite an extraordinary journey, and Michael Wilkinson creating the costumes. What does a Star Wars prison uniform look like?
Right there.
Wow, prison couture was not something he imagined he would be good at. So it has been an extraordinary, complex, much thought through journey. And God, I'm thrilled that I think we got there and got it right.
Andy, I'm curious. I'm just going to ask you: did they tell you when you were filming what you guys were building, or did they leave that alone and say just watch the show?
I actually worked it out because my son had the Death Star Lego. Lego, and I saw the pieces and I thought, oh, right, okay, I get it. All right, we're building that. Oh, yeah.
Nobody was told, no.
Yeah, I was going to say, so you had no idea until you actually put it together on your own. Did it get spread like a rumor?
It was all hand signaled over to it. We talked to each other. We started to communicating with each other. What do you think's being made? I haven't got a clue.
A lot of this audience knows how the sausage is made, and I'm curious for both of you, what do you think might surprise Andor fans to learn about the actual making of Andor?
Oh, that is a loaded question. I don't know.
Wow. Well, I have to say, just talking about going to the prison, we every time. So there were a lot of supporting artists in the prison setup, and there was nowhere to hide on that set. Everything it's really extraordinary because you're talking about prisons being you think of them as dark, dingy places and so on and so forth. This was wide open, bright white, glaring lights, metal underneath your feet, wearing paper,
no shoes,
paper uniform, and that was the strange thing, was finding your sliders after every single scene. 50 people trying to find their own pairs of sliders to get back in, to walk back to.
Sometimes 100.
Yeah, exactly.
I think one thing that is probably hard to imagine even now, but this wonderful tunnels, the corridors with we're connecting, where the sleeping pods are and the factory floor. It was just a very long set, elevated, and you had to close the doors on both ends. And when we were filming in there were 100 people and plus crew in it at a time where we are wearing masks and COVID was very much amongst us, and it felt always slightly counterintuitive, but you'd be pleased that nothing ever happened to anyone.
And that was remarkable. It was extraordinary, actually, like you say. I mean, those they were literally like COVID test tubes that we were kind of living in for all together, a very close proximity. There was nowhere to hide. That was the thing. That those sets did something so strange to your heads, because it was like normally you know, when you're filming, you find a little place to go and sit, and you've got your own, you know, you've got your stash of stuff, and you know, whatever, you've got your bits and pieces. But it just wasn't like that on this set. It was so desensitizing, and just that being barefooted all the time, and you know, those uniforms, it did all help for the drama, but God, it mucked your head around. You know, it really got inside you.
And I think nobody would have any idea how many conversations we had about, you know, the lift taking you down from the intake down to the floor. I mean, more than 50 and so many people involved, and the mechanics of it and what it had to deliver and what it had to achieve. And yes, it had to be practical and SFX, and it was a lot of thought went into it, and you know, all worth it, because when we came to film it, crazy days as there were, you know, I love the moment when you start charging. It was really quite profound. It's you know, it really came together. It was very fond memories of that time.
I still don't understand how you guys did it, because basically every 3 episodes was like a new pilot, you know, like new stuff. And I mean, I just can only say, you know, thank you so many times, because it's so, you know, incredible. But I want to ask you, and you've answered this, I know, at least 50 times, maybe 100. But obviously, we never see Kino die. And now that you've spent a decent amount of time with Tony, have you guys actually had any conversations about like the what ifs, what could be, and have you been filming anything on season 2?
Well, now that would be telling, but. You know, there is a scene of Kino on his own practicing the crawl and the breaststroke in his cell, imagining how he could. No, I have no idea what's going on. I have no idea, no, not at all.
Well, I'm gonna. One of the things, I think it's such a beautiful scene watching when he says, "I can't swim," and obviously it's the culmination of everything. So talk a little bit about filming that scene, delivering that line, and were there alt versions where you were saying it differently? Talk a little bit, you know, if you don't mind.
Sure. I mean, that scene actually was the very, very last day of the shoot, of the whole thing, of the whole of the season.
Yeah,
wasn't it? Do you remember?
After that, yeah.
We were literally wrapped after, you know, that literally people were diving, jumping off, and then it was just like, and that's it, wrap, and everybody go home. And it was a big day anyway. But what was great was Toby Haynes, the director, who did such an incredible job of this arc and you know, of these episodes. He really did allow. He really was interested in nuance of performance, and we tried. Or I did that scene many different ways, just in trying to explore what it is like to look. Here was a character that you know, had sort of kind of lost himself. I always imagined that he was, prior to being incarcerated, someone who had great heart, who was in fact probably someone who would have stood up for his fellow workers, would have been a shop steward or a union rep, who was strong, a firebrand, passionate, cared about other people, and then completely, once he was incarcerated, probably because he was very good at galvanizing people, and the Empire would have been threatened by someone like that. You know, once he's incarcerated, completely loses his, you know, he just wants to get through his sentence and get out, and actually becomes very hard and bitter, and just doesn't want to make any ripples, just get through the situation. And so when of course Cassian arrives and the whole story unfolds, and the reality is that no one's going to get out, and then it's reignited this whole thing of being once again being able to care for your fellow inmates, and actually really sort of reconnect with a version of yourself that you'd never thought you'd find again. So we went through all of that, and then the day comes where you get to and I knew this. Obviously, I knew what was going to happen, but there are so many different ways of playing that moment, and we explored a kind of, you know, an anger, we explored a kind of resignation, we explored a kind of gallows humor, a kind of, you know, we tried lots of different variations, and I think, I mean, the one that Toby finally put in the cut and is the one that you saw was one of was of acceptance and a kind of. And I was really glad. I was actually really glad that was the version that made it because he was, again, it was sort of like this. It was a perfect end to the journey of that character, that acceptance.
Just a quick question about acting. How are you, like, the night before you're filming something like that, are you practicing those lines at home? Are you in your head about it? And how much are you sort of thinking about it in the moment, right before you're walking to set?
Well, obviously, look, I mean, there are lots of actors approach things in different ways, and everybody has their own process. The big kind of the build up to the escape and the speech that he makes, the one way out, it was. That was very nerve-wracking because those speeches can go horribly wrong if you're not in the moment and you're actually feeling it, and if you overthink things and you prescribe things too much, you can really come across as if it's too premeditated, then because you've worked hard on, you've got to know it so well that you can throw it away and be in the moment, and that's the thing. And that's as an actor, I think, is what you do a lot of preparation, you do a lot of backstory building, you do a lot of kind of working out who this person is, physicality, voice, all that kind of stuff, and then you kind of have to throw it away and trust the moment. Because the great things happen in the moment, and the things that you're not prepared for, and you have to be open to that. So I mean, I was really scared the day that I had to do the big kind of speech, and actually so was Kino Loy. So it sort of worked out. So when Diego, says, when Cassian says, is that all you got? It was just like every time we did that, I was just like, I hope I can get through this. I hope and so it sort of felt very real and present and in the moment because there was Kino finding his mojo again was a genuine sort of thing. You don't know as an actor. You don't know whether you're going to do it. You don't know whether you're going to deliver. You hope you're going to deliver, but there's no guarantee, and sometimes you don't. So it's always scary.
Because Tony's not here, I'm going to ask you this question. I love Thestellen. There's a few monologues in Andor that are unbelievable. And in episode 10, there's the Thestellen Monologue. And so talk a little bit about how does that, is it the writer, is it Bo who's writing the episode, writing that thing? How is, talk a little bit about how these things come together in pre-production.
I mean, it really was a writing thing, and I think, Tony's, show generally, and I think, as he doesn't shy away from it, Bo doesn't shy away from it, and his writing partners don't, that speeches are sometimes something that is really poignant and right, and I think it's a most extraordinary piece of writing for Thestellen's speech, and the most truthful and important thing for his character at that moment to learn, the truth, and to hear him give things away when he is, ultimately the puppeteer who very cleverly pulls the strings behind closed doors, and you actually know very little about him initially, just that, he has two personalities, and, and a very good cover story that he lives that aids his cause. And I think picking that moment to give him such a profound speech that is so human and so deep. I mean, it was electric to film it. It was, I'm sure, scary for Thestellen too to prepare for it, but also, I just know what joy he felt when he read it and how thrilled he was to be given something that is such an, extraordinary opportunity for, some extraordinary performance. So, yeah, it's just really lovely that Andor, the show, makes that possible, but a lot of other shows shy away from. You think about Marva and her eulogy. It just, it really gives characters, there's a chance to very truthfully and kind of naturally come to a place where they have something rather profound to give away and share.
I definitely have to ask you. I see, obviously, there's people dressed up in the prison outfit. Did you take your prison outfit home, or were you like, I'm burning this the second we wrap?
No, I use them as my pajamas now. I mean, it's just like. No, I didn't take my costume home because you wouldn't have wanted to go anywhere near our costumes by the end of the shoot. I have to tell you, they were not in. You could smell people a mile off. It was like not good.
What is it like for you though? Because you were at Star Wars Celebration, and I saw there were so many people cosplaying in costume. What is it like being a part of something which strikes such a nerve with so many people, and they want to be a part of it?
I mean, I first sort of got wind of that this was sort of a thing, going to be a thing in Tokyo at the Tokyo Comic Con, actually, just before Christmas, and I was meeting lots of people, and then suddenly people coming up dressed as you are magnificently, and wanting to go on program and wanting to, and to chant One Way Out, and it was like, what? So someone told you about this, or it's just like it was. I don't know, and I kind of have thought about this, and it's like, it's. I think when you have. We're living in a world now where it's very, very, where there's so much censorship, where there is so much oppression, and people feel squashed in so many ways, not just kind of politically squashed, but ideologically and culturally, and people feel really. Through coming out of COVID, through all the stuff that's going on in the world at the moment, people feel oppressed, I think. And so I think that is sort of partially what Tony's a great allegorical writer. He's not writing for right now, but because, as he would say, this is. If he was writing this 100 years ago, he'd be writing the same thing. It's not just about the world that we live in today. There's a universal truth in how he writes, and he was writing about an anti-fascist. We were talking yesterday about this. He was writing an anti-fascist piece. That's what this is about, and I think that the kind of the release of that is what people are tapping into and enjoying, and finding the excitement and energy from.
This is a producer question. Do you think we're going to get an Andor behind-the-scenes doc for season 1 on Disney Plus?
Oh, I really don't know, but let me find out.
Let's ask Marshall. Marshall, do you know?
No.
do you?
I'm
is
sorry.
it a no or you don't know?
I have no idea.
Oh, there we go.
Sorry.
I'd really love it if you would pass up the food chain that a lot of people would like to watch. Whatever you want to.
So pass on the message, absolutely.
Actually, you should mention, and I'm not sure how many of you heard, but they're going to be in the middle of the month. I think they're going to release the scripts online for people to read.
Yes, Tony announced it yesterday. The final script will be released online, together with some concept art. To really kind of combine that information. And I know the ULR wasn't up yet, and Tony couldn't remember. And so, but yes, it is happening, and I believe it is imminent. And I think anybody who is a fan, I think reading Tony's words, not only and to see what the basis was of what we created, will be a really exciting journey. I'm very thrilled that is happening.
For each of you, there's always people behind the scenes that don't get enough credit in the creation of something like this. So for each of you, who is an unsung hero that you want to shine a light on that really helped you with Andor?
For me, there is so many. I mean, and as when you're producing anything without your production team and my, I don't know, I could name them all now, the producers that work alongside me and the entire team. But I think it is also really our entire crew. We have a very large team of very dedicated and very talented people that are hugely inspired by Tony's vision and the show that we are doing. Filmmaking is a team effort. Filmmaking it's all about a whole bunch of people coming together and bringing something that kind of often exceeds Tony's expectations and does create something very magic. And it is the entire team. We are blessed with our Pilgrim family, and I love them all and thank them forever. And without them, none of us would be shining and sitting here, and you wouldn't be enjoying the show that, I'm so thrilled you are enjoying.
Is there someone you want to shine a light on?
Oh, no, I mean, look, I just echo everything Sanne's saying. It is an immense team effort, and you feel when you're on a show that, when you feel the energy of the crew behind you all the time, kind of there for you at every single moment, it's because they are transported by the material and the passion of the filmmakers and so on and so forth, but everyone collectively feels that energy, and so I can't single anyone out in particular, but because it's a massive organism that thrives on everybody bringing 150% every day to make something work, and that energy is when it's on a show that and you do feel it when you're on a show that feels special. You because it comes from the authenticity of the storytelling. That's where it comes from, because you feel like you're making something that actually is important, and to be able to speak about important things in a Star Wars universe is like, it's just joy. It's just like, it doesn't get any better. That you can actually communicate important ideas in a genre which many people who don't get it and don't understand it would ridicule, but actually we're all part of. You're contracted to it. With the actors, the producers, but the crew. They're the engine room of the whole thing. And it is. I think it is about you knowing that you're saying something that has real value that people are going to love.
But as we are shining the light on the crew, I really also have to say we had the most extraordinary ensemble cast. I mean, we had 175 or 79 speaking parts. We had, huge numbers of crowd, and every single Phyrexian in the end, after a very long journey, really. They were when the riot came, they were fighting as Phyrexians for survival. It is an extraordinary journey, and every person that stepped in front of the camera really was just a joy. And only when that all comes together, again, like with a team, when you're making it, and preparing it, in order to turn over, it is, every single element has to work together to be able to create something that feels real and authentic. And it's something that, you can dive into and immerse yourself into and enjoy.
As a producer, I'm so curious. This show seemed like it was endless challenges. Like there was nothing easy about the making of Andor.
Yep.
So what do you think was like level 10 out of 10 in terms of trying to pull it off with your budget and schedule?
God, is there anything that isn't level 10 or beyond? I mean, I think COVID, of course, when we, added the extra dimension, we had to stop 11 weeks out from filming, and like everybody else in the world, and fight to come back out of the door, because not so easy when you are a big show with a lot of people involved and a huge cast and huge crowds, and to find a safe way. That was an added a little conundrum, but I don't know, by that time it became a raison d'etre to that we kind of felt we had to do this, come what may, and we shall prevail. And that spirit was also a real joy. But I think that added, an extra bonus. But yes, there's nothing easy about shows that have this scale. And when you produce for the small screen, you always have to cut out all the waste and have extra focus and achieve more within a day in order to bring these values to screen. And it is a daily challenge, but also an exciting one. And I don't know, it's something that we chose to do, and I'm glad I did every day.
Yeah, I really don't know how you did it. Like I really don't know. For real. But I
will one day go into therapy and try to work that through.
I want to see if anyone has any questions out here, and I do see some hands. Where is Marshall? There he is. Marshall, do you want to pick some people?
Hey, Andy. I had a question for you. I feel like all of us in our headcanon, it's what we make up because we love your characters so much. One way out. Steven, I think, tried to ask you about the fate of your character. But in your own headcanon, the story that you've made up, what happened to him? Did he jump off? Did he get pushed off? Did he realize he actually knew how to swim? What happened, Andy? Tell us in your head, please.
No, he's in my mind, I always have this picture of him, sitting in his cell very quietly, trying to practice swim strokes. And no, I really am joking. But no, I think look, he would have found the other survivors and other people that weren't able to make it out, because of course there were also a lot of injured people, a lot of people who weren't able to make the jump. So I think he would have stayed and he would have galvanized them. He would have brought them together. They would have found a way of surviving until now that they realized that there weren't that many guards overseeing them. They would have the power shift would have been there, and he would have been able to at least create some kind of semblance of a society, or a small society, however many survivors there were, and until help was coming. So I think that's probably where he would have gone.
I just have to ask, when you were filming this show, did you have any idea how many people were going to be asking, like begging for this character to survive?
No, but not at all. But I tell you what, some of the Comic-Cons I've been to, there's been amazing T-shirts with Kino Loy Swimming Society, kind of, so all manner of memes of Kino with a life preserver around his it's quite incredible how that has touched people. I mean, what are you all afraid of swimming or something? I mean, it's incredible.
Hi, I'm Laura. I'm curious what you imagined the precursor to your story. How did you end up in prison, and how did you get into character when you ended up going, on set each day?
No, I mean, I think I mentioned earlier, the idea that this was a guy who was quite a political figure, who was very strong-willed, had a family, and was a family man, but also would go out on strike or would stand up for fellow workers' rights. And the very fact that he is a firebrand and is able to mobilize people and inspire people to do the right thing, would have seemed a threat to the empire, which is kind of in my mind, and actually, I based him very closely on my brother-in-law, who sadly has passed, but who was that person who actually was a very, very ardent kind of socialist, and was often was on political kind of. He was often on strikes and was adamant about work equality and workers' rights. And I think that for me was I wanted him to have that integrity, really, and then have that stripped away from him, only to be able to find it again.
Hello, I got a question for the two of you. You mentioned earlier that you had to do a prison spin on Star Wars, and I'm just curious if there's any movies or entertainment that you watched, like Shawshank Redemption, Escape from Alcatraz, that brought any sort of inspiration to how the characters would deal with the situation?
I think any there's so many really quite profound prison movies that one has seen, and they're all give you a lot of food for thought and have, given all kinds of wonderful depictions of inmates within and the situations, and a lot of political and difficult situations. So I think all of that makes you think, and all of that emotional truth that that will exist within a facility where a whole lot of people find themselves locked up, certainly were important to embrace, and Tony's storytelling would anyway, because we are following characters through their journey and what this incarceration does to them, and but it's all an inspiration, and yet it was also always the thing, how can we be emotionally truthful and also truthful for how it functions and works within that world, and yet create our own version that becomes a believable entity in for Star Wars. And we ended up with what you saw on screen.
I've filmed in a number of prisons over the years. There are two that really were outstanding. One was in Russia. I was in Russia filming just after the wall came down in 1990. I was doing a series out in St. Petersburg, and there was a remand prison that was built for, I think it was built for 280 prisoners or something like that, and there were nearly 3,000 prisoners in this place, and the cells were literally about 6 foot square, and they had about 30 people in each cell, and there was a hierarchy in each cell where some people were allowed to stand, some people could sit on the beds, some people could sit on the lower beds, and most people had to sit on the floor. And then they were all brought out. They were doing sort of blood tests on them, and they pulled every single one of them out, and they went along the line with using the same needle and jabbed each arm, just went along the line. And it was just like, I've never really seen humanity, the abuse of kind of power. And this is a remand prison, so they hadn't actually been charged with anything, and a lot of them were in there for years without actually being charged. So, and then the other place was San Quentin prison when I was filming Venom and directing Let There Be Carnage, and we shot in San Quentin, and that was an extraordinary place too. And again, lots of lifers living there who have come to terms with the fact that they're never going to leave, and sort of talking to people. And so there were lots of inspiration for this show. And I think one of the brilliant design decisions, as Anna was saying, was not having any bars. So that it gives and it being bright and white and really sort of threatening, but in a different way. So there's a claustrophobia of being, and I think it really messes with your head, because you do think of prisons as dark, dank kind of places with bars and so on. I carried those images with me when we were on the shoot, and just how people get through those situations, and also. Do you know the Memphis 3 story? The West of Memphis, the Memphis 3 story. Well, I met Damien, who was one of the 3 who was wrongly accused of murder and was in prison for 18 years. And actually, when we were filming The Hobbit in New Zealand, and Peter Jackson had made the West of Memphis documentary, Damien came out of prison. Whilst the documentary was actually being made, he actually came out and stayed with us down in New Zealand. He could barely see. He'd only been used to looking like at a 6 foot cell. He was in isolation, complete isolation for 18 years, and he couldn't. His eyes were just adjusting to the light, and he'd never seen a DVD. He didn't know what sushi was. He didn't know what, all these kind of things we take for granted. He'd come out, and this world had kind of completely changed. And so all of these things were sort of buzzing around my head when we were kind of drawing inspirations for being on Narkina 5. Anyway.
Hello. I was wondering, because in the show we see Cassian ask Kino if he ever thought about escaping before. And I'm curious, did Kino, before meeting Cassian, ever think about it? Or was he just complacent with being a cog in the wheel?
No, he was absolutely never, he wouldn't ever have dreamt about it, because he just wanted to keep his head down, not cause any ripples, just do his time and get out. And they shut down. He was like emotionally shut down.
Hey, what makes you love acting?
Okay, lightning round.
knowing why I'm an actor, and that by which I mean I love storytelling, and I love going out, researching, coming back and sharing my findings with an audience.
That's amazing. That is fantastic. This side.
Yeah, can each of you share like an outtake or a funny moment from set? I mean, with such heavy material that you were working with, I assume there's still some bloopers.
Have they released Andor bloopers?
No, we haven't.
I'm assuming you have a sizzle reel.
No, there is none, actually. I don't know, maybe we're not funny enough, but no, there were a lot of hilarious moments, but they're generally mishaps, and so we just try to protect us from them, from those. But oh God, I don't know. I can't name one of them. Prison related either. I don't know. Sorry, I'm failing you.
Only that you would not have wanted to be, after lunch, you wouldn't have wanted to be in one of those test tubes with 100 people, kind of releasing. Not a good situation. And, yeah, one way out, yeah.
Hey, this is for Andy. Just curious about building the physicality of the character, and I know you've done a lot of voices in your career. Was there ever the thought of doing a voice for this character? Stuff like that.
Well, yeah. I mean, whenever you create a character, it's part of the building of the character is the psychological makeup of the character, which then informs everything to do with the physicality and voice. It's all bound up with that. Where a character carries tension, pain, where your centers of your energy are, where you lead from, where your head. Do you lead from the head? Are you from the heart? Are you you make up a set of assumptions for each character that you play. Again, I'm going to shorten this. I'm not going to.
Hey Andy, I'm a huge fan of yours since Lord of the Rings movies. Actually, I was planning to watch Andor already, but as soon as I heard you're in the show, then I just started to watch it. So what's your favorite Star Wars movie, and which character would you like to be from the movies if you had another opportunity except Kino and Snoke?
Han Solo.
Hi, question for Sanne. What led to the decision to shoot on location rather than using the volume?
I think we were always about that. I mean, Tony's writing doesn't lend itself to fit into a volume. Ultimately, it's an extraordinary new technology and really a wonderful thing to exist. But, his whole storytelling was really never particularly catered to it. And when we went into this, we always said we will shoot as much in camera and only extend what we need. That comes with, with the territory of Star Wars. VFX will be part of it. But, to try and shoot the old-fashioned way as much in camera as possible.
Before we get to the next question, I'm just going to say that was anyone at Star Wars Celebration? Well, there we go. So did any of you else see the Acolyte footage? So that was also, it's not on the volume. It's shot on location, and it really, just like Andor, it had so much, the practical locations.
It is. I mean, combining stage builds and location work and backlot work really became the DNA of our show.
Yeah. Sorry for interrupting our...
What was the prison food supposed to be?
Well, it wasn't. It was supposed to have flavor, but I never tasted the flavor. I didn't experience the flavor. It all tasted pretty bland to me.
The food only got flavor when the team did well, and.
Hi,
Hi, can you talk a little bit about the relationship between Cassian and Kino and what moment it made him snap back into trying to fight?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Cassian doesn't give up. Cassian is a force. And he is always. He's always observing. He's so observant and kind of particular, and he thinks steps ahead. Kino is such would have been pulling in the other direction so strongly, but it is that moment. I think once he saw Olaf, who was the character that passes. That around that time, that would have been a moment where Cassian would have seen his response, and just seen the crack in Kino's character, and realizing that there was a grain of humanity left, and knowing that he was able to galvanize people. I mean, I think for me that was the point, and then of course that episode ends with never more than 12. So that it's definitely at that moment. Yeah.
Andy, any interest in directing on season 2?
Oh. I haven't been asked yet, actually.
We should
now
also,
you brought up a subject.
we should asterisk this. Andy, are you currently directing something?
I am actually. I'm directing Animal Farm by George Orwell. Another piece of storytelling about tyranny, and actually, gosh, there are some great similarities in this story to Andor. Really, I mean, it's a brilliant book. Sadly, it's everlastingly relevant, as this story is too. And we've got a great cast which hasn't been announced yet, so I can't tell you, but shortly will, and it'll be ready for your viewing pleasure. And we've got about another year to go. So yeah.
Thank you, Stephen, and thank you both for coming tonight. It's really, really appreciated. As both great creative contributors to TV and to movies and to the best characters who've ever walked on 4 legs, was there a time that you felt your creativity was fragile or something that you could only access through a certain ritual or a certain time of day? And if so, how has that changed?
I started life as a theatre actor. Well, I started life as an actor in the theatre, and I did lots and lots of theatre, and I adored it and felt it really connected with, you communicate with an audience in a very profound way. I had an accident on stage when I was playing Iago in Othello at the Royal Exchange Theatre in Manchester, and I got put in. There's a scene, a very intense scene in the middle of the play where Othello really goes for Iago, and the guy who was playing Othello pulled me so far back and I had a disc injury in my back, and my vertebrae pincered my disc in half, and I passed out on stage in front of 750 people. I just completely blacked out, and I didn't know where I was when I woke up, and I haven't been back on stage since, and that was 2002. And I've always wanted to go back on stage, but which was the same year that The Two Towers came out, actually, and then I started getting involved in many more film projects. But I love theatre, and in a world where, it's funny enough, I was talking to Tony about this at lunchtime today. In a world where AI is going to become a huge part of storytelling, where analog feels like it's almost a safe place. We were both saying, Tony and I were both saying, it's back to the theatre for me, because it's going to be a very interesting next couple of decades in terms of where creativity goes. Anyway, sorry, this wasn't a short answer, but it was a difficult question.
I believe we're really close to the end. So yeah, exactly. Do you see that? The whole, so let's do one last thing. Do you want to go down here to someone from Narita?
Hi. First, I just want to say that the last episode, One Way Out, was one of the first episodes where I stopped what I was doing, tears in my eyes, hair up on my arms. I was so enraptured. So bravo to everybody who worked on it. You guys were amazing. But my question is, this is your rallying cry. This is your let's get everybody out and get them out. Did you listen to any popular speeches like, Bill Pullman, Independence Day, Aragorn, Return of the King to kind of get you, into that
Didn't listen
mood?
to Aragorn, for God's sake. Oh, I need to spend more time with Vigo. It's just like I definitely kind of tried to work it out for myself. No, I mean I hear what you're saying, but no, it was. I had to find Kino's version of trying to find that speech. So. But I mean, obviously there are incredible, inspiring, inciting speeches which we all know, but not in this case.
I was going to say, ladies and gentlemen, on that note, I would really appreciate it if you would give these people a round of applause. And also, if you are on this thing called social media and you enjoy Andor, don't be afraid to keep on saying that. I really, really, really say thank you for doing this, and a huge thank you to Disney for letting us screen these episodes.
Yes, a huge thank you.
For real.
Thank you for having us.
And thank you, Steve. Amazing.
Yes,
thank you, Steve.
Thank you so much.